Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap and results video. And Monday Night Raw just ended 10 minutes ago. And my God, was this show painfully boring tonight? It was absolutely boring. It was a chore to sit through these 3 hours. This show was worse than last week. Last week's show was terrible, as always. It's Monday Night Raw. What do you expect? But this week, this show was fucking worse. And I didn't catch TLC last night, but I did see the results for it. We had Sasha defeating Carmella. Sasha still retains the SmackDown Women's Championship. Drew McIntyre still the WWE Champion. Defeated AJ Styles. We had the Raw Tag Team Championships change hands. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. They defeated the New Day. We had Asuka and a surprise return, which I'm like, when I saw this, I'm like, oh God, she's back. Because Lana was taken out of this match. So Lana is out for now. And Asuka's opponent was Charlotte Flair, the overrated, booked WWE woman superstar. So yeah, Charlotte returned last night, and everybody, and including me, when I saw that, I was like, oh God. So they are the new Women's Tag Team Champions. They defeated Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Roman Reigns defeated Kevin Owens. Roman's still the Universal Champion, which apparently they're going to be having a rematch on the Christmas Day edition of SmackDown this Friday. And the Universal Championship is going to be on the line, but it's going to be inside of a steel cage. Roman and Kevin Owens are going to be having this rematch inside a steel cage on SmackDown on Friday, on the Christmas Day edition. And then, of course, Randy Orton defeated The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Randy Orton ended up lighting The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, on fire. It was a Firefly Inferno match. So we could officially say that The Fiend is buried. So there you go. Those were the results for TLC. And on the pre-show, we had an 8-man tag. Big E, Daniel Bryan, Chad Gable, and Otis. They defeated Corbin, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and Shinsuke Nakamura. Who cares? But anyway, let's get on with the recap and results for tonight's Monday Night Raw. Don't want to take too long with this video because, like I said, the show was painfully boring tonight. It was a chore to sit through. So, of course, Monday Night Raw had to open up with Charlotte. So, we had Charlotte get in the ring. She was on the mic, and she ended up saying that she is in the Thunderdome. And what would be the Thunderdome without the Queen? So she ends up bragging on winning, the gold, one half of the Women's Tag Team titles on her first night back. And I'm like, yeah, we got to give Charlotte a title. WWE sees Charlotte as champion. She's a Grand Slam champion. Oh God. She is so overrated. And they book her to the moon, thinking that, oh, she's the greatest superstar in WWE history. I mean, she is good, but she's not spectacular. She's not, perfect. So, and that's what WWE sees in her. So she ended up saying that nothing has changed with her in the last 6 months. So she ends up going on about Asuka. She ends up calling Asuka her friend. I'm like, calling Asuka a friend? Don't we all know that Charlotte and Asuka were rivals? They had their rivalry. So WWE is gonna make us think that, oh, Charlotte and Asuka are friends when they clearly are rivals. They both are rivals. WWE wants us to forget that. So she ended up introducing Asuka. Asuka came out with both the, of course, Raw Women's Championship and the Women's Tag Team Championship. So yeah, she's double champion. She's holding both the Raw Women's Championship and the Women's Tag Team titles. So Asuka ended up getting on the mic, speaks in Japanese. She loves being a double champion. She ended up saying that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler were not ready for her, and were definitely not ready for Charlotte. So Charlotte ended up asking, what about the Raw Women's Championship? So then we had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler come out. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler ended up coming into the ring. Nia Jax ended up joking that it took 6 months for Charlotte's arm to heal. And Charlotte ended up mocking Nia Jax, and she ended up saying that she kicked her ass last night. Nia Jax ended up saying that Santa Claus isn't the only one with a naughty or nice list. But they don't hand out coal. They hand out beatings. Season's beatings. So then out came Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke were cracking jokes on how Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler look without the women's tag team titles. They end up telling both Jax and Baszler to move over. So they both got into the ring. Charlotte ended up asking Asuka if she wants to stay and watch this. And Asuka ended up saying that she does. So Charlotte then calls the referee to come to the ring. So then we had Charlotte end up getting out of the ring. She and Asuka end up heading to ringside to watch this match, which was Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, where Asuka and Charlotte were on commentary here. But this was just a very meh match, in my opinion. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler end up winning the match. Shayna Baszler end up locking in the Carafita clutch on Dana Brooke. So Jackson Baszler ended up winning. Post-match, we had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler end up taunting Charlotte and Asuka from the apron. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose end up coming from behind. They end up knocking Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler out to the floor. And that was that. Overall, very meh match. And then we had the VIP lounge, the championship edition of the VIP lounge, where the Hurt Business ended up coming out. MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander, the new Raw Tag Team Champions. MVP ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up saying that if there was ever a time for a champagne toast, it's now. So MVP ended up bragging about why the Hurt Business is better. He said that Cedric and Benjamin talk about winning the titles from the New Day at TLC. Cedric ended up saying the come up is over because Prime Alexander is here. Cedric went on to say that we could forget about pancakes and unicorns. Lashley went on about how they are the most dominant force in WWE and says we can get used to seeing this. he ended up saying that he guarantees there is not a man alive who can beat him for his title. The United States Championship. So the Hurt Business has all the gold. Bobby Lashley has the United States Championship, and Cedric and Shelton Benjamin have the Raw Tag Team titles. But MVP ended up saying that he has invited a photographer to commemorate this occasion. So MVP ended up getting Bobby Lashley, Cedric, and Shelton Benjamin to pose for a picture. So they end up posing for the picture, and then we see R-Truth in the background photobombing them. And then we had the circus come out because, of course, R-Truth had the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title out. So out came Eric, Titus O'Neil, Lindsay Dorado, Akira Tozawa, the circus. So they end up chasing R-Truth around the ring. They went back up the stage. They all ran around the Christmas trees that were set up, and they all went to the back. And I'm like, you know what? I gotta play it now because it totally describes, what they were doing. There you go. It's a fucking circus with them coming out and chasing R-Truth for the title. There you go. I'll just let it play for a few minutes. There you go. It's a fucking circus. It's a fucking circus with them coming out, chasing R-Truth around for this god-awful garbage title. So then we had Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle come out. MVP ended up not believing that Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle were invited to this celebration. And so then we saw more of R-Truth being chased around by these guys. It was happening behind Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy. I'm like, oh, God. Like anybody believes this shit is still funny. It is not funny. Maybe to a 5-year-old, maybe. Matt Riddle ended up congratulating Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander on their win. And he ended up saying that he thinks they're doing this celebration wrong and that they're spending too much on champagne when they could be hanging out in the backyard, getting toasted with the homies or listening to Joe Rogan's podcast or a comedy special, according to Matt Riddle. So Matt Riddle ended up rambling about how everyone is the same and should just chill out. MVP ended up saying that we are not the same. And since Matt Riddle doesn't know what he's talking about, they don't either. He wanted to say that no one cares about Matt Riddle's harebrained concepts. Yeah, I was going to say, where were the bro nuts this week? Where were the Dunkin' Bro Nuts? I guess Matt Riddle forgot to go to Dunkin' Bro Nuts to get his bro nuts. So MVP ended up asking, what is Matt Riddle talking about? So Jeff Hardy ended up interrupting, and he ended up saying that life is more than status, and they rather live a life of pride than greed. He ended up going on about fate and is on the same page. So that was basically how the segment ended, but god awful with them running out, chasing R-Truth for the garbage Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. It's not even funny anymore. It hasn't even been funny for so long. It is getting old. It's been old already. So then we had Drew Gulak versus Angel Garza. Angel Garza hasn't been on TV in a while. So he was backstage with Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber ended up asking Garza about how he prepared for this match. So Garza was just flirting with Sarah Schreiber, and he gave her a rose. Garza ended up saying that he might be fighting Gulak, but he will be thinking of Sarah Schreiber. And maybe they could end up in a room under the mistletoe. So Garza ended up walking off. Sarah Schreiber ended up looking a little annoyed. So then we had the match. But the match itself, it was a quick match. We had Garza end up winning. Garza hit the wing clipper to Drew Gulak. So there you go. Garza ended up winning. So, but quick match. Then we had Miz TV, where the Miz and John Morrison were in the ring, of course. Miz ended up saying that you aren't always presented with the chance to become WWE champion. And he had the chance to make history at TLC last night, and that he failed. He said not only did he fail himself, he failed his family. And he ended up apologizing. The Miz ended up apologizing. Morrison ended up saying that that isn't the only apology that needs to be delivered. So the Miz ended up agreeing. So the Miz introduced his guest, who was Styles, AJ Styles. Styles came out, of course, with Amos. So they ended up heading to the ring. And there was some tension between Styles and the Miz. And Miz ended up saying that he wanted to hear Styles' explanation. Miz went on and says that Styles would have done the same thing. Styles ended up cutting him off, and he says that he has already heard enough. Styles ended up calling the Miz the biggest idiot on earth. And he ended up saying how incompetent the Miz is. Styles ended up saying that Miz cashed in, and because of him, they both lost. Miz ended up saying that the Money in the Bank contract was everything. He said to Styles that 10 years ago, he cashed in and main evented WrestleMania. And this was going to be the same thing this year that he would have done. He went on about how he's fought for respect for 15 years. Miz went on to say that if he won the WWE Championship again, maybe, just maybe, Styles and everyone else would have respected him, and he would have taken Monday Night Raw to new heights. Miz ended up saying that all he can do now is make it right. So he ends up apologizing and says that both him and Styles were robbed last night. And he admitted that he blew it. Miz ended up saying that it's the holidays, the time for giving. And he might can make this right by giving Styles an early gift. So Miz ended up offering Styles the chance to star in the next edition of The Marine. And they end up having a mock poster of the Marine 7 where the Miz was front and center, Almost was in the background, and Styles was barely shown. It was like a tiny Photoshop image of him. And John Morrison ended up pointing out how he's not on the poster. So then we had Styles and Morrison. They ended up getting heated with each other. So we had the Miz got in between Morrison and Styles. Miz ended up pointing out how they're right, that Morrison cashed in the Miz's contract. And technically, of course, the Miz is the only one who could cash it in. You know, the holder of the Money in the Bank briefcase is the only one who can cash it in. So the Miz starts ranting about how he wants an official to reinstate his Money in the Bank title shot. Of course, because Morrison was the one who cashed it in. I'm sorry to say, Miz, that Money in the Bank, you reinstating your Money in the Bank briefcase, it's not going to happen. So then out came Drew McIntyre. McIntyre ended up pointing out how he left Styles a present on his face last night, which was a scar, which Styles had the scar on the side of his face. He went on about how he, Sheamus, and Keith Lee came up with a sequel to the Nightmare Before TLC story that The Miz, John Morrison, and Styles did last week, which was a god-awful segment which opened Monday Night Raw last week. So McIntyre starts reading it. And it was called The Nightmare After TLC. Oh, how original. You just took out the before and added the after. So Sheamus ended up taking over. Sheamus appeared at ringside. Keith Lee then was shown at ringside. He picked up from the read-in. And so we had McIntyre, Sheamus, and Keith Lee surrounding the ring. They entered as The Miz and John Morrison and Styles were getting ready to fight. We had a brawl breakout between them. McIntyre ended up launching Morrison over his head. Styles ended up drop kicking Keith Lee from the top. Styles was on the top. He ended up drop kicking Keith Lee into Sheamus because Sheamus was preparing to hit the bro kick to The Miz. So because of Styles drop kicking Keith Lee into Sheamus, they both argued, and McIntyre got in between them, and McIntyre ended up calming Sheamus down, and him, Sheamus, and Keith Lee stood in the middle of the ring, and that was that. But awful segment. And then we had T-Balls versus Ricochet. If you all thought that Ricochet won this match, my God, think again. T-Bar ended up winning the match. We had Ricochet grabbing Ali through the ropes because Ali was preaching to Ricochet. Ricochet then grabbed Ali through the ropes, started punching Mustafa Ali. Then T-Bar grabbed Ricochet from behind, and he ended up driving his knee into Ricochet. And there you go. T-Balls end up win the match. Post-match, Retribution all came into the ring. T-Bar stood over Ricochet. He ended up taking the mic. He ended up telling Ricochet that they are his allies, not his enemies, and that Ricochet will either join them or his existence will come to an end. So that was that. But when is Ricochet's contract up? When is his contract up so he could leave this company and get treated somewhere better? Once his contract is up, hopefully he will go to AEW. He will get much better recognition, and he will be really liked well over there. So, overall, it was a quick match. Well, we're going to get Ricochet versus Mustafa Ali next. I sense that happening next week. I may be wrong on that, but calling it right now. So then we had MVP and Bobby Lashley versus Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy. The only reason why WWE put Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy together as a tag team is because there's no other tag teams on the show. There's no other tag teams on Monday Night Raw. The tag team division is fucking shitty. It's awful. I can say the same on SmackDown. The tag team divisions on both shows are god-awful. So they're just putting superstars who are not legit tag teams together because they have nobody else. So, but MVP And Bobby Lashley ended up winning the match. We had Lashley locking in the Hurt Lock on Jeff Hardy. And that was that. MVP and Bobby Lashley end up winning the match. But overall, the match itself, it was an okay match. And then we go from that to another boring segment here with Elias. Of course, once you see Elias, I could see that the remotes were being picked up to change the channel. So Elias was in the ring with Jaxson Ryker. Elias ended up saying that Ryker is a man who understands the universal truth. He ended up talking about the ups and downs he's had. And he went on with a message for his fans. He ended up saying before Ryker sends a message to his opponent with a beating, he has, and then he got interrupted by Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado. Then we had the match, Jaxson Ryker versus Gran Metalik, god awful. We had Elias sitting on the top turnbuckle, and he was watching the match. He was trying to perform a song during the match. I'm like, what the fuck? And then we had Metalik end up going to the top, sends Elias off the top rope with a Hurricanrana. Jaxson Ryker ended up coming back into the ring, and we had Jaxson Ryker win the match, end up hitting the sit-out choke bomb to Gran Metalik. So that was that. So, but overall, god-awful match. Then we had Randy Orton come out. Randy Orton ended up talking about, his win over the Fiend Bray Wyatt last night. And we had Alexa Bliss there. She had a swing set, and she was calling it Alexa's Playground. Alexa ended up saying that he built this for her. Alexa Bliss ended up telling Orton to come into the ring. And, when Alexa Bliss was out there, you had a reddish purple light come on in the ring. There was fog shown in there. Alexa Bliss was swinging on the swing set that was in the ring. And there was some other stuff in there, like there was like a rocking horse in there. So Alexa ended up telling Orton to come into the ring. She ended up saying that he's probably worrying where he is now. Alexa ended up saying that he could be at a tanning salon because he was looking kind of pale. Alexa stated that he, when she's talking about he, that means the Fiend, he could be at the beach. And she hopes he doesn't get sunburned. Or he could be at his favorite restaurant, eating his favorite food, barbecue, which Alexa ended up laughing. Alexa ended up saying that Orton is right. It was right here in the ring, where you can smell his burning flesh. Because, of course, last night, said earlier, Randy Orton ended up lighting the Fiend Bray Wyatt on fire. It was a dummy, of course. Randy Orton lit a dummy mock of the Fiend on fire. Because there was people that would be like, oh, did he really light the Fiend on fire? No, of course not. So Alexa ended up saying that it's almost like the Fiend was absorbed into the mat. She went on and she ended up saying that he is home. But if he ever leaves home, he might come to Alexa's playground. And if so, it'll be unlike anything we've ever seen before. So now is that the lights went down in the arena. It went black. Lights came back on, and it came back on to Byron Saxton, Tom Phillips, and Samoa Joe. Now is that. And then we went to Charlotte and Asuka versus Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans. This was terrible. This was god-awful. We had Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans fighting over who would want to, take out Charlotte or Asuka. But Charlotte and Asuka end up winning. Charlotte ended up locking in the figure 4. She bridged into the figure 8 on Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce tapped out. There you go. Charlotte and Asuka won the match. Terrible. It was a god-awful match. Then we had the main event. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Keith Lee versus AJ Styles, The Miz, and John Morrison. Once again, McIntyre, Miz, and Morrison in the main event of Monday Night Raw. I lost count on how many times all three of these guys are in the main event of Monday Night Raw. What was this? Give or take, what was this, like the 8th, 10th time that McIntyre, Miz, and Morrison main evented of Monday Night Raw? But this was no street fight, though. I mean, they just threw them into, like, the gifts. Someone threw a table. I'm like, where were the kendo sticks, the holiday Candy Cane kendo sticks, which they did use almost towards the end of the match. But it was just a plain old, regular, match, in my opinion. It didn't even feel like a street fight. But match was just meh, in my opinion. Just not that good. Keith Lee, McIntyre, Sheamus ended up winning. Keith Lee ended up delivering the Spirit Bomb to The Miz. Post-match, we had Sheamus end up dropping Keith Lee with the bro kick. And there was a point where Keith Lee and Sheamus were like, hitting each other. And then Keith Lee ended up giving like a hand chop to Sheamus, where he went like that to Sheamus, and then that kind of pissed Sheamus off. And then Drew McIntyre, got in the way so they wouldn't, brawl, Sheamus or Keith Lee. But yeah, Sheamus ended up dropping Keith Lee with the bro kick. McIntyre ended up yelling at Sheamus in his face. And pretty much that was basically how Monday Night Raw went off the air. It went off the air abruptly, like that. But overall, just a very meh match. Wasn't that good. You want to see a better street fight match, go watch the Best Friends versus Santana and Ortiz from Dynamite. That was an awesome street fight there. One of my favorites. But watch that match. That match was 1,000 times better than what we saw tonight. But overall, this was a painfully boring edition of Monday Night Raw. It was god-awful. This show, like I said, was worse than last week. Anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw recap and results video. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Definitely give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all Wednesday night for Dynamite. It's going to be the holiday bash show. They ended up taping it. I heard that spoilers were leaked out, but did not see the spoilers. All I want to say, last week's Monday Night Raw had a 1.5 rating. And USA Network is now on their asses. And they want to make Monday Night Raw, some points, put some adult stuff in. And I'm like, it's too little too late for USA Network to be complaining about how Monday Night Raw is. How come they didn't complain about this like 3-4 years ago? Hell, even longer than that. And all of a sudden now they're complaining to WWE that they want, more adult stuff on Monday Night Raw. And they want change to Monday Night Raw. There's not going to be no change. The only change that's gonna happen is if Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon are out of the company. If Vince retires, which he is not going to retire anytime soon. But yeah, I am expecting, as much as I want to say after watching tonight's show, that third hour, I really do hope to see a 1.0 rating. I really do. It's probably not going to happen, but that's what I predict with the ratings. And of course, 2 weeks from now, they're having a Raw Legends night. Where we're going to have the legends come on. This is typical Vince McMahon, where he invites the legends to come in. WWE supporting, the old school legends, while they push the new talent aside. And this is all just for WWE to get a ratings boost. That's all it is. It's for them to pop a rating. Because their ratings are shit. So that's that. So anyways, thank you all for watching. And until the next video, which will be, of course, the Dynamite review. See you all Wednesday with AEW Dynamite.